Chapter 5, Becoming a Group. So, preview how communication structures the small group, challenges in group development, group socialization of members, group roles, norms, rules, development of a group's climate, ethical behavior during group formation. So, how communication structures the small group. Saturation, the idea that group communication creates, maintains, and continue to recreates a group's norms and the way it operates. Three important assumptions for this theory. Group members do not have a clean slate about how to behave. Members pick up rules and standards for behavior from the general culture. No law forces them to follow those rules. The group is constantly recreates itself through communication, so it's always in a state of becoming. So when you see this, the formation of it, there's no particular structure. So you see group members don't have a clean slate about how to behave. Realistically, if members pick up rules and standards from the group, because there are no rules, they make the rules as they go. So what, in essence, what becomes the norm becomes the rules. So realistically, if you have a group of high moral people, you would assume that you would have a certain level of behavior. If you had a group who had low moral people, you would have a certain level of behavior too, but it probably least desired. The group is constantly recreates itself. One of the reasons through communication is because a lot of times the groups is constantly changing. Challenges in group development. Groups' major functions are to manage social tensions and movement from one state of development to another. Key issue, managing social tensions involves two functions. Task, socio-emotional. A group's attention must shift between concentrating on its task and concentrate on the relationships between its members. So when you look at this, the key issue, managing social tensions, involves two functions, the task and socioeconomic. So you got groups that are going to shift between concentrate on what it is they're trying to do and concentrating on the relationship between the members. This is important. What you're trying to do could potentially be at a clash between relationships between members. Give you an example, if you have a task, it's something you're trying to do and you have a group of 10 and 4 or 5 people are actually on task or whatever else, but you actually have some relationships in there, cliques with some of the other people, they may not be inclined to want to work together because it's personal, not business. Groups experience 3 types of tensions. Primary tension is anxiety arising early in a group's formation as members work out the relationship and roles. This kind of social tension is similar to stage fright. So when you have trying to bring people together and put them in roles, I actually saw an organization that was trying to do this recently within the past 2 years. And the mistake that the person who was actually putting folks in positions, he was putting people in positions that they were not necessarily qualified for, and in some cases in positions that they didn't want to be in. Second tension, task-related tension that stems from developing opinions about the substantial work of the group. So when you look at it, you took attention, it's like, okay, different opinions about substantiated work within the group. So when you think about this, it's like, okay, do you have people that don't believe in what you're doing or how you're going about doing or what they're doing? Tiare tension, tension that stems from power and status struggles in a group. So when you have people that are struggling because of somebody believes I should have more power than that person, or that person should be in power, or I don't want to follow this person, those can create problems right there. And a lot of times you don't know this until you bring people together, and then you see the clashes. Challenges in group development. Groups can manage these tensions in a variety of ways. Groups can move through the primary tension stage more quickly if they know each other. So if you actually have people who are familiar with each other, they already know the quirkiness. They already know the good, bad, and the ugly with these people. So they may be able to overcome those because they already know each other. Now, when you bring people to group together and they don't, that's different. Members can reduce both primary and secondary tension by sharing what they know about the problem at hand. Okay, one of the ways you reduce that is to find common ground, the problem. What do we know about the problem? Get people to stop concentrating on themselves and the issues they have with each other and concentrate on the problem at hand. Secondary and tertiary tensions can be managed if group members demonstrate tolerance for disagreement. Okay, You and I can disagree, but that don't mean we have to be at war because of it. We don't have to fight. We don't have to get mad at each other. We can disagree as gentlemen. Remember, we're both trying to solve a problem. If that's still the goal, we can disagree about how we go about it. Eventually, we can find some common ground in some capacity. Humor is also an effective way to handle both group and TRE tensions. So when you look at it, when you have humor about it, when we can laugh at ourselves and mistakes, I tell people oftentimes, we can laugh with each other. We can't laugh at each other. And if you can do that, then you can move forward. 5 typical stages of socializations. Antecedent, attitudes, beliefs, motives, and behavior patterns of members before joining a group. So when you look at that, what do you have with these people before they join a group? In other words, did you put the right people in there, the wrong people in there? You know, some things will let you know right there. If you put somebody in there who's got a strong belief against something you're trying to do, that doesn't make sense. But maybe you didn't know that. So you want to know this up front. Anticipatory expectations of members about one another. What do people think about each other? How do they feel about each other? Encounter. Members are working together and adjusting to one another with change of roles. So one of the things you find is with the encounter, flexibility. People who are willing to work together and adjust their roles and do what it takes, remember, to get it done. Assimilation, adjust and integration into the group. This can be an issue for some. Some people will not play fair in the same box, and I don't care who you put them in the box with, because it's not the box or the people in it, it's that person. Some people are just difficult to work with, and they will not assimilate. And realistically, there will always be issues that will come up, and it'll be a struggle. And sometimes you find that this is a lot of times when they have to ask members of a group or organization to leave or separate from them because of that, because they cannot assimilate. Exit, the end of the project, which could involve decision and formal disbanding activities. So when you're having a group, you want to end it the right way, on a positive note, not that it just falls apart. It needs to end the right way. It could involve discussion and formal disbanding activities, because realistically, it may be something you may want to duplicate later. Group role. The part of a member plays in the group. Two main types of roles, positional, formal, and behavior. So when we think about that, let me look at this next slide and let's go into more detail. So the main roles, the main behavior roles are task. So a task role contributes directly to the accomplishment of the group's task. So this is strictly about getting something done. Maintenance roles help the group maintain harmonious relationships and cohesive interpersonal climate. One of the things that helps with the maintenance role is having somebody or somebody's in there who's really good at that. Give you an example. If you put a group of 10 of all type A personalities in there, okay, you got 10 chiefs and 10 leaders and no Indians, no followers. Some people are actually really good at maintenance roles where they help grease the skids between those kinds of people. You want to make sure you have some of those. Individual roles consist of behaviors that place a member's needs ahead of the group's. So when you have individual roles, you got to look at it. It places the members' needs ahead of the group's. That could be a problem for obvious reasons, because you don't want people who are more important than the group. Rules and norms. Rules. Formal, explicit standard of behavior and procedures by which a group operates. So a lot of times these will be written when you talk about something along those lines. Norms, informal, implicit standards of behavior and procedures by which members operate. These a lot of times will not be written. This is something that people will do on their own. They have a norm of doing this. Development of groups' norms develop in 4 main ways. Norms, primacy. Behaviors that occur early in a group's history often establish norms throughout the primacy. So when you see this right here, this is actually things where how the group starts out, and they set up some norms and stuff. Even sometimes if they're not trying to, they actually set them up. Explicitly. Sometimes norms are established by explicit statements that a leader or another member makes. So somebody or somebodies can actually, with some influence, can actually put something out there and say that, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so that's where you get explicitly. Critical skills. Some norms are established through critical events that occur in a group. So by virtue of some things that happen and what the group experiences, they develop some critical skills. And with that, it's because of what they go through. And sometimes, many times, this is not planned. This is actually something that happens. And as a result, the group adjusts accordingly. Cultural, many norms are taken from the general culture in which the group's members live. So if you have a group of people, and let's say that you have a group of people and they're from a specific part or specific island, and well, the cultural aspect of the group is going to be consistent mostly of them because that's who, or their island norms and their ways and beliefs and stuff, because that's where they come from. Deviance, members who consistently violate group norms. Group members encourage deviants to conform to norms verbally and non-verbally. Deviants are the folks that a lot of times, when I referred to earlier, that can't play fair in the sandbox. There's a lot of times there's nothing you can do with these kinds of people because it's not about you. It's about them. And sometimes you just got somebody who's not suited to be part of a team. Group climate, the atmosphere or environment within a group. So you look at trust, the general belief that members can rely on each other. You want to make sure that people can rely on each other because it's implied when people trust each other, they can deal in good faith. Hidden agenda, an unstated private goal a member wants to achieve through a group. Hidden agendas can derail a group. Anytime you have hidden agendas, and particularly if you find out that there's one and somebody's got it, my personal experience, you should get rid of that person because the goal or the agenda is not their agenda. They have something else in mind, and usually I've never known that to be good. Cohesiveness, the bonds of attachment members have for each other. So when you think in terms of cohesiveness, when you have bonds and stuff, this means it goes beyond just being in a group. A lot of times it's associated with, when I see this, it's associated with feelings and emotions. Guard against groupthink, which is a tendency of high cohesive groups not to evaluate thoroughly and critically all aspects of a decision or a problem. So when you think through, evaluate critically and evaluate through, it's kind of like, well, whatever those two say, we all go with. That's groupthink. And that's not good because now you're probably going to lose objectivity because now you don't have people thinking as individuals. And remember, there's strength and diversity of thought. Defensiveness and supportive communication behaviors and statements. So we look at defensive behaviors. Evaluation, control, strategy, neutrality, superiority, certainty. Supportive behaviors, descriptive, problem orientation, spontaneity, empathy, equality, provisionalism. So when we look at these, and you're talking with somebody and you see these different types of behaviors, they can mean a lot and they mean something. One of the things I tell people, what drives behaviors? Emotions. So if you see a behavior, there's emotion that's usually driving it. And then you try to figure out what's driving the emotion. And this sometimes can help you try to ascertain whether or not you're seeing something that's actually working, or behaviors working for the group or working against the group. Ethical behavior during group formation. Group members should communicate in ways that help establish a supportive climate. So group members should communicate in ways that help establish a supportive climate. So you want to communicate in a way that's a supportive climate that, everybody feels like they're part of and everybody feels like you've got their back. Communication that degrades other members must not be tolerated. If you allow somebody to be in there to degrade somebody within the group, remember, that's sowing discord. The group is only strong as its weakest link. Freedom of expression, diversity of perspective, and tolerance of disagreement must be encouraged. When you have good functional groups, one of the things you don't have is arguments and fights and disagreements. You have people who are actually in the group and they understand we're a group of individuals. And so we have different ways of thinking and doing and seeing things and doing things. Members must be willing to express their genuine personal convictions, even if this requires courage to disagree with one another. You want to make sure that when groups are actually functioning and communicating, have healthy communication, that doesn't mean they always agree, but it means it's always honest. And that you can rely on, even if sometimes it might be a disagreement with somebody, you know, at least honest. And that's where you really want to be. That's what you want to endeavor for. That concludes this chapter.